June overhead pull push squat. Just got the ring underhand grip overhead pull. So just using a rotational grip but finishing in that underhand grip position. So if the rings are set up like that, having hanging off, so when you go up it's loaded to go into that position. An easier version would be feet on the ground, coming right up, and just a tiny little jump there. That's the height I like to set up for people in the classes and working with clients, so that way it's easy to kind of transition, but getting good form, getting a good kind of lower trap interaction with the lats, getting a nice stretch at the bottom. From there you could have it higher and have the feet in the bands, so you're doing kind of an eccentric or just getting that loaded version and assistance from the band. But then if you're having a bit higher, you can jump up and then lower yourself down, but you can do it with this height where you just kind of take the feet off, and I like that because that way it gives it that versatility to finish your set like that, and then just keep the toes down a bit more if you're progressing the overload through the muscle. From there, if you want to make it harder, you just keep that tuck position and then pulling from there and not quite touching. To make that one harder, you can go to a straddle or a full L, and they get quite hard, especially when you go into that nice deep dead hand. It's a lot harder to go through there and pull up from there. When you kind of just work that range, it's much easier, but that way you get that strength through that full range of motion. For the overhead press, just a body weight overhead press, and just making sure, I find when I'm teaching, big challenge I have is getting people to kind of get that position as opposed to that. So when you're doing it where you've got a bit more weight in the feet, it's just important to get the head to go a bit further forward for the fingertips. So here, obviously a bit wider is a bit easier. You don't want to make it too much of a tricep exercise, so you don't want it to be like this kind of tricep push-up and like that. You want to still integrate the shoulders even when you're doing that narrower grip. So from there, coming forward, pressing up overhead. To make it harder, you can raise the feet up on a chair, or just coming up into more of a pike, pressing up overhead. If you need a bit of assistance with it, you could even add the band around the hips, so that way it's lifting you up to get that better position. Or you're just doing like a down dog position from a plank, just to strengthen that overhead position. And not even bending the elbows. I find that works quite well for people. Plus it's giving that added benefit of the shoulder stretching like that, the lat stretching, the hamstring stretching, and then just strengthening in that overhead position with the lockout. The squat this month is the banded squat. Obviously if you've got a barbell or dumbbells, you can use those to load it up, but just to use the band, you can double up the band, triple up the band to make it heavier. You can pull it tighter to make it heavier as well. Obviously, as you come up with the bands, it's going to be heavier. As you go down, the band gets slack, so it's easier. That way you're keeping a bit more loading through there rather than just doing body weight. From now on out, we're just doing alternating each month between a loaded squat and a single leg squat progression. And the same with the ring pull-ups. Normally we do 2 variations in a week, one to develop the rope pull-up or rope climb, and then one to develop the one-arm pull-up. Now it's just kind of overhead pull, and then we just kind of alternate the variations. Obviously a one-arm pull-up is a great end stage development for your overhead pulling capacity, and same with, you know, a legless rope climb where you're doing really long pulls and kind of doing those one-arm pull-ups going up the rope or coming down. So we're kind of doing the same in the classes, just because I found that people were getting a bit too much exposure to that, and it wasn't really necessary. You could do the 2 workouts every week if you like, but I find a good overhead pull push legs, like squat workout once a week is quite sufficient, and then alternating between the loaded overhead push and the loaded squat movement. So whether it's single leg body weight squatting, or whether it's handstand push-upping, or body weight, loaded overhead pressing, so whether it's dumbbell, barbell, or even the band in the progression program online. So it's really up to you, but it's just, I just find that if you're getting all the handstand work, muscle up work, all the hanging work, you're really getting enough kind of loading through those tissues, and hitting it that many times a week wasn't really getting the benefits that people were after, and just hitting it well once a week was more than enough. So enjoy that. Get the 30-second pull, 30-second overhead push, 30-second squat, 30-second rest, 4 rounds, 8 minutes. Enjoy.